Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scout Selections here for Friday, September 27th. Before we get into today's play of the day, we'll quickly recap what happened yesterday. We picked up a nice winner in the A's and Mariners game as we ended up giving out the Seattle Mariners' first five team total under 1.5, which was available at minus 105 on 5 dimes, and we ended up winning as the Mariners ended up scoring 1 run in the 5th, and that was all they were able to generate as Mania pretty much coasted throughout. A little bit dicey in the 5th, that guy on 3rd with 1 out, but Mania struck out the next 2 batters, which meant that we were able to get a nice win. In terms of the leans, we leaned towards the over on the Thursday night football game in between the Eagles and the Packers, and I thought the Packers would win outright, but we also leaned to the Eagles plus the points, so that ended up working out. We did end up losing, though, on both leans involving the Navy and the Memphis game, as I leaned towards the under, and I also lean towards Navy plus 11.5. They ended up losing by 12, but the play of the day won, so it definitely was a solid day. How's it going, Brian? Thanks for joining us. But in terms of today's play of the day, we're going to be going back to college football in a matchup between Penn State and Maryland, and we are actually going to be taking the home team here plus the points, as we are going to be taking Maryland plus 7, which is available at Bovada at minus 115. Simply put, first of all, in college football, I don't typically like to go against home teams. I do it every now and then, like I did last week with UCF against Pittsburgh, and that did not work out. But as a whole, usually I like to side with home teams in college sports, as just the fact that they're all so young, they definitely ride the crowd momentum a lot more than some professionals might. But in terms of these two teams, they're both off of a bye. Penn State's 3-0. They're number 12 in the country, so I understand why they're favored. I really just think this team is highly overvalued. If you look at who they've beaten, they beat Idaho by 72, they beat Buffalo by 32, and they beat Pittsburgh by 7. Now, all 3 of those games were at home. They haven't played a road game all season. Idaho is one of the worst teams in the – I mean, they're not even FBS anymore. I believe they got demoted to FCS. Buffalo, they beat by 32 points. They've looked better over the last week or so. Buffalo, but overall, not a great team whatsoever. And then they barely beat Pittsburgh by 7 after Pittsburgh decided to kick a field goal on 4th and goal at the 1-yard line with about 5 minutes to go. They ended up missing the kick anyway. So you can argue that Penn State could have potentially lost that game to Pittsburgh. Meanwhile, in Maryland, they won their first 2 games by at least 43 points. They beat Howard by 79. They beat Syracuse, a ranked Syracuse team, by 43 at home. And then they ended up losing on the road against Temple. Now, even though they lost that game, Maryland got stuffed at the goal line on 3 separate drives and came away with no points. So you could argue that Maryland should have potentially won that game. But for me, I personally am going to lean to Maryland on that. I think the issue that I have with Penn State is just, A, the fact that they're playing their first road game the entire season. B, I'm not a big fan of Clifford at quarterback. I know that he has 6 touchdowns and no interceptions, but if you look at how he did last week against Pittsburgh, I don't think Pittsburgh's defense is great. Definitely better than Buffalo's and Idaho's. Last week against Pittsburgh, he went 14 for 30 for 222 yards and no touchdowns, no picks. He's been sacked 3 times in each of the last 2 games, so Penn State has had some issues protecting him. But if you complete less than 50% of your passes at home against Pittsburgh, I think Maryland's defense is very underrated, and I think Maryland has the ability to get after the quarterback, and I think they should be able to pressure Clifford. Do I think Maryland's going to win this game outright? I definitely think they have a shot at winning this game outright, and I might have a little bit of sprinkle of money on them winning this game outright, but I definitely think with Bovada providing you with plus 7 at minus 115, you set up a great opportunity for a push there, and I think that Maryland at home should be able to keep this game close after all 4 quarters. I know Penn State smacked Maryland last year by 35 points, but that was because McSorley was their quarterback, and he's no longer their quarterback. And I think that Penn State is definitely downgraded with Clifford. Plus, Maryland now has Josh Jackson at the quarterback position, who has 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. His completion percentage is not great. He's only completing 51% of his passes, which definitely needs improvement. But he definitely possesses some mobility that should be able to prolong some Maryland drives, and I definitely think that Jackson, when needed, could easily run for some yards, as he used to do at Virginia Tech. So for me, the play of the day will be on Maryland plus 7, which is available at minus 115 on Bovada, and that will be taking place in Maryland at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick comment from Jamal. You're feeling the Maryland and the Arizona State game and the under. Just your thoughts. Just a question on that, Jamal. Do you mean you like Maryland and Arizona State, or you just like the under in both of those games? Because I'm not really sure if you mean you like the home. I'm not really sure if you mean you agree with Maryland or if you just like the under in both those games. But in total, that's my thoughts on the Maryland game. I will give out some leans, though, on the rest of the betting card. I wrote an article for Winners and Whiners on the Duke-Virginia Tech game, and I personally like Duke here. I know Virginia Tech at home is going to be a very tough place to play, especially on a Friday night, so you can expect the stadium to be packed. I just think Duke has a much better team, mostly because of the fact that I don't really like Willis as the quarterback for Virginia Tech. He's already thrown 4 interceptions. He's a little bit turnover prone. And Quentin Harris has done a great job filling in for Daniel Jones since he left. Harris was the team's leading passer and rusher last week, so he has a lot of dual threat ability. And I think that Duke should be able, led by Cutcliffe as the head coach, I think he should be able to come up with a game plan to keep Virginia Tech's defense off guard. Virginia Tech also has not looked that great this season, and I definitely love the way that Duke took care of business against inferior opponents. So Virginia Tech, they barely beat Furman. That's definitely a red flag for me. Could have been a look-ahead spot for a bye, but for me, I will take Duke plus the points, and I think they could potentially get the win outright. Other than that, thoughts on the Arizona State and California game. I've seen California play. I lost a teaser on a couple of weeks ago on Washington beating California at home, as there was pretty much a monsoon, and the game ended up finishing at roughly 4 in the morning. But in terms of the game, money's coming on Arizona State. California's been bet down from 5.5 to 4. California's off an emotional win against Ole Miss, where it came down to a goal line stand with no time remaining. And Arizona State's defense imploded as they ended up losing to Colorado last week. In terms of what I think about the game, money coming in on Arizona State makes me believe that they will be the right side. I've seen California play. This team does not score many points. However, money has come in towards the over as it's gone up from 41 to 43. After Arizona State's defense last week completely imploded, especially with Colorado missing their best receiver for the large portion of the game, I don't really have any thoughts on the total. I would lean towards the over, I guess, because so much money has come in on the over. But in terms of the actual sides, I would have to lean to Arizona State plus the points. California's offense, was very solid against Ole Miss, but I don't think Ole Miss's offense is very dynamic. And I think that Arizona State, they were able to go into a hostile environment in East Lansing and beat Michigan State, and they should be able to keep this game close in this conference game. I think if California wins, I think it'll be by 3 points, so I will lean towards Arizona State in that one. Yeah, Jamal, that's my thoughts. I agree with you on the Arizona State. I agree with you on the Maryland, but I'm a little bit skeptical of the under because of the fact that money has already come in on the over in spades in the Arizona State game, so I'll personally get a pass on that. In terms of I got a quick NFL question here from Todd. He's asking me about the Patriots -7 and the over 42. Do I think that Buffalo is overhyped, and do I think 42 is too low? Is low for me. Todd, to answer that question, I actually teased the under at roughly 49, as I ended up betting that earlier in the week at roughly 42.5 or 43, as I knew that line would end up going down. I think 49 is definitely too high of a total, so that's why I took it at the under. In terms of 42, I think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game. But in terms of the Patriots -7, I know Edelman will play, as that was a concern earlier in the week. The issue that I have with the Patriots, I know that they're an unbelievable team, and I don't think this team has any flaws. This game means a lot more to Buffalo than it means to the Patriots. And we saw pretty much every year with the Patriots against the Dolphins, for example. They'd always lose one game on the road against the Dolphins just because it was pretty much the Dolphins Super Bowl and the Patriots didn't really care. For me, Buffalo is 3-0. Do I think they're overhyped? 100%. I already covered that on one of the Twitter posts that I made about a week ago, where I sarcastically congratulated Buffalo for beating the Jets, the Giants, and the Bengals. All of those teams have a combined 1-8 record, and they needed to come from behind to beat the Jets in week 1. And the only reason why they won was because C.J. Mosley got injured. Giants, it was pre-Daniel Jones. Giants are terrible, at least before Daniel Jones was quarterback. They still have no defense. And last week, they blew a 14-point lead at home against the Bengals and needed to come from behind to win in the fourth quarter. I think the Bills are highly overrated. I think the Bills will finish the season somewhere in the realm of 10-6, and I think that their record is mostly due, if not entirely due, to the teams they've played against. However, I do think this game will be low scoring. I'm a little bit skeptical of the 42. Buffalo with Josh Allen, they tend to just drain a lot of clock. I don't think Josh Allen's that great of a quarterback, but I think he's serviceable. Patriots are solid. Bills' defense is pretty good. But in terms of the game, I think it could get over the 42. I don't really think it will. I'm personally going to lean to the under on that, Todd. But the Patriots, I think it makes sense. But for me, I passed on that game entirely in terms of the actual numbers as opposed to the teaser because of the fact that I just think this game means a lot more to Buffalo than it does to New England. New England knows it could lose this game and still win the division with an 11-5 record if it completely fell apart. I think New England's going undefeated this season. I've said it before. I know that that's kind of crazy talk, but they've looked like the best team in football by a wide margin, both on offense and defense, in comparing both. Kansas City has no secondary. But in terms of the game, Buffalo, the fans are going to go nuts. This is a must-win game for Buffalo, and I think New England can come into this game relatively flat as they know that they can lose this game and still win the division relatively easily by the end of the year. So I'm personally going to skip on that. Yeah, Todd, I'm not telling you to take the points with the Bills there. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that I definitely think that Buffalo will give New England more of a fight than people originally anticipated because of the fact that the game's in Buffalo. Buffalo's 3-0. The hype machine's real for them. And I definitely think that New England's been here, done that. They're 3-0 again. They're going to coast to a division, probably an AFC title once again. So I just think that this game means a lot more to Buffalo, and New England could come out potentially flat. But in terms of my Twitter handle, if you want that, Todd, that is my Twitter handle. So if you want to follow me on that one, then I think that they could, I'll usually just post some comments on that. But for me, yeah, I agree with that, Jamal. I think that 42 is a bit low. But I like the under 49, which I ended up taking on the teaser. I think that game should end up somewhere in the realm of maybe 24-20. I think that game will be close. I think if New England is going to cover, I think it'll be somewhere in the realm of, I don't even know, maybe 24-14, 24-17 maybe. I just think it's very tricky for the Patriots to cover that spread and for the total to go over because I don't see the Patriots running up the score against Buffalo's defense. I think Buffalo takes up a lot of time on the clock, and I think that should lead to a lower scoring game. For me, if you ask me what my predictions were, I would take New England winning probably in the realm of 24-17, give or take. That would be my thoughts. But I don't know. We'll see how that game turns out. And from Terry, yeah, I'll try to get you a winner tonight. We got you a winner yesterday, so hopefully you were able to cash that. But hopefully Maryland is able to cover the +7, and we will continue with another win on Friday. Other than that, though, quick reminder of our sponsor, PointsBet, All-In Sportsbook in New Jersey. A couple of great deals for you. Up to 2 risk-free bets up to $1,000. So if you end up betting on any sports and end up losing, you simply get your money back, which is a great promotion that more sportsbooks would use. Other than that, though, that's going to do it for this installment of Scott Selections here for Friday, September 27th. And good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.